Welcome to The Big Picture. I'm Phil Arno. On this program, we're going to talk a little bit about life quality, okay? We here in Buffalo have it pretty good. I've lived in a big city that had nothing but traffic jams and lines waiting to get into restaurants, theaters, anything. You basically planned your life around waiting. Buffalo gives you a quality of life that you don't get in most other cities. So we have it really good, but this is only one little slice of the world. Now, I've had the privilege of seeing deserts, mountains, aqua blue, warm waters in the Caribbean, a little bit of Europe, and when you're living in Buffalo, you know your world is very specific. But when you go out to other parts of the world, it's an experience that kind of opens your eyes. We have a world out there that's extremely different from what we have here in Buffalo. And so one of the things we're going to talk about tonight is tours, travel. We see a lot of tours being offered in various venues, and some are good. Some of them are pretty much of a disaster from what I've heard. But with me tonight is Joe Torrisi, who is the sponsor of Joe and Donna's Excellent Adventures, and they give tours to local people here in Western New York that are kind of customized for the experience that we as Western New Yorkers want to have. So I want to introduce Joe and welcome him to the show. Joe, it's nice to have you here.
Thanks, Phil.
This is a subject that, you know, we don't always think about being somewhere else because we have so much going on here, you know, with our daily lives. But the thought of getting away, experiencing a little bit of adventure, a little bit of different life, you know, style, you know, all the sights and sounds that we don't get here in Buffalo. That's very attractive. You do tours, and the first thing I want to ask you is, how is your tours, the tours that you sponsor, different than a lot of the ones that we see advertised all the time?
Generally, Phil, our tours are customized for people, average Buffalonians. Basically, we take care of all the planning. They have to show up at the airport on time, and we handle all the details. We pick out the resorts, we pick out the travel times, the shortest layovers, the most convenient, obviously, flights, and present a good value that's all packaged up so people don't have to scrub the internet to try and find what they think is a good deal.
Well, that's a key. You know, here in Buffalo, I'm not going to say we're stingy, but we like a good bargain. Everybody out there in Buffalo likes to stretch the dollar, shall we say. And you are very good at basically hitting a sweet spot because you have the comfort, you know, when you go on your tours, everything's taken care of. From soup to nuts, it's all done. And it's one price, and that includes basically everything that you are going to do. Everything. It's just one price, and you're with local people. So this kind of it's kind of geared towards the Buffalo crowd, Buffalo experience. It's a very down-to-earth thing.
I liken it to going to an away game, if you will, because it's Buffalonians that are together. Some of them know each other, some don't know each other. By the time it's all over, everybody knows everybody, it seems. We believe in free-range traveling. We don't run around with a sign and say, follow us here or follow us there. We don't jump from hotel to hotel every other night. We generally pick out a nice resort that has a lot to offer everybody. Entertainment, pools, you know, having a drink in the pool at a poolside bar or in-pool bar. Obviously a huge selection of food and gourmet food for the most part. We try to bring it together so there's something for everybody.
Well, you have my dream job. I mean, you basically have to go and scope everything out, right? I mean, you
Yes.
you scout everything before the actual tour so that you have everything down set?
That's correct. My wife and I will go look at several venues over the course of a year before we determine where we'll narrow it down to possibilities for our next group trip. And we'll evaluate them on food quality and convenience and accessibility and how easy it is to get through their customs at the airport and so on and so forth. And make sure that basically, as you said, everything is taken care of for our guests.
The trip that we've been talking about before the show is an Alaska cruise. It's in late July, early August?
That's correct. It's the last week of July. It's a bucket list destination for a lot of people. It's certainly the time of year to go because in Alaska you only have a couple weeks that you really want to be up in Alaska. The weather generally is cooperative, although you can never guarantee weather, but it's generally very nice up there at that time of year. And again, this is an all-inclusive trip. Basically, it's a round-trip flight from Buffalo to Seattle, and we're going to get on one of the newest ships in the fleet that was purpose-built for transversing the inland passage up in Alaska, and it's actually one of the few certified ships that are allowed to go into the glacier fjords, and they're actually the Parks Department will actually board the ship and make sure that ecologically everything is safe, but they'll also narrate it, so they tell you what you're seeing as you're going through the fjords.
It's got to be an exquisite vision up there. I mean, it's got to be beautiful.
Absolutely phenomenal. The atriums that they built into these ships, so whether it's whether you're dining or whether you're just want to watch the mountains and look for the whales or the wildlife, these ships, these newer ships. This ship we're going to go on in July actually has a go-kart track on it.
Okay.
So there's something for everybody.
Okay, that's amazing. Well, how much time is actually on the ship in this particular?
This ship, it stops at, I think we're stopping at 4 or 5 ports. And usually they're a day port. So you'll come in usually in the morning and you'll probably leave around 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening. And then we'll head on to the next port or destination. Or there's a day basically where we spend just exploring glaciers. Okay,
and so this is a trip that it's going to be fairly relaxing in terms of pace, right?
It is, but there's a lot of fun and nightlife on and things going on the boat. They have several theme restaurants. I think they're still doing an Irish bar show that is kind of like in a bistro setting. You can have fish and chips and. Or they have, obviously their stage productions. There's just all kinds of things to do.
This is not the time you want to practice your dieting.
No, I would not diet. The fine dining is phenomenal. It's all included. It's basically, you're talking 3, 4, 5 course meals. It's just, people romanticize about, the dining room of the Titanic. Well, it's not quite that prim and proper, but it's still a very, very high-end dining experience.
Now, you've done a lot of these tours over the years, and you've gotten used to the crowd that comes from Buffalo. Who's your average traveler, or is there an average?
I think our average traveler is somebody that's probably in their mid to late 40s through, I think we had somebody with us just 2 weeks ago when we were in Costa Rica, I think it was 87. So it's a wide variety of people. It's generally people that have some bucket list places they'd like to get to. Maybe the kids are probably off to college or somewhat, and now they've got a little time to go explore.
So this is something that people talk about a lot. I hear about Alaska cruises a lot. To me, if I'm going to go on a perfect vacation, it's probably going to be somewhere warm with warm, aqua blue water and just.
We have that too, Phil. We just got back from 7 lovely days in Costa Rica. I rented the site of a volcano, so we went and did the hot springs and the mud baths. And
But even on the Alaska tour, there's probably a pool on the ship.
Oh yes,
I would
absolutely.
think,
Yeah.
and hot tubs and various things. So it's not something that you would envision in Alaska. Like you say, that time of year, the weather's fairly warm, nice.
And that's key, Phil, because there's a lot of bait and switch and hidden charges, and people will tell you, they'll show you a price. You don't want to go to Alaska at the time of year that they want to show you that price for.
Yeah.
You might as well be outside in Buffalo in February. So,
no, we've gone through our share of cold weather here. Okay, so tell me a little bit about some of the other trips that you've done over the course of last number of years.
We'll have a whale watching trip that's actually done in warm Caribbean weather. Every whale in the Atlantic Ocean goes to a specific part of the planet every year to spawn and rear their young. So I know where that is. So we take a group of people there, and we'll go whale watching when it's 85 degrees out rather than 40 degrees off the coast of Massachusetts. We're planning a trip to London in October, which is, it's a flavor of Europe. It's a nice, easy get to. That trip keeps getting bigger and bigger every year. It's just so much to see. You can't possibly see. I've been there several times, and I still have a list of things that I'd like to see. A
lot of culture there, museums and the food.
Architecture and the old with the new. Yeah, I was on the Shard just back in December. We were in London for Christmas markets. And, the Shard is like their Empire State Building. It's the biggest building in London, where you go to the top and there's a bar and there's 360 degrees overlooking London. You'll see one building that's built in the 1300s next to a building that was built in 2028 or 2026, I'm sorry. So it's just an incredible contrast.
That's one of the things that I experienced when I was over in Europe for a trip. Over there, you'll see a building and it'll say this building was built in 1275.
Yeah.
And they consider that to be a little bit old, but not ancient. Here in Buffalo, it's like if something was built 120 years ago, that's an old building.
Right.
This is a whole different part of the world, and you can't imagine what the differences are.
The thing that struck me about London is the narrow streets, because they were built for horses and carriages. And how they drive around that city is absolutely just boggles the mind, because they have to take turns going down streets at times. And cobblestone and the churches and the architecture are just phenomenal.
Well, we're out of time for this segment. We're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the different destinations and the kind of experience you have on a tour like this. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Big Picture. We're talking about adventure. We're talking about relaxation. We're talking about getting away and kind of having a breath of fresh air, if you will. My guest is Joe Torrisi, and he's with Joe and Donna's Excellent Adventures. One of the things that we were talking about before is how different things are. You talked about the narrow streets in London, and I talked about the age of some of the buildings there. The culture, when you're used to, going down the streets of Buffalo and seeing houses that were built in the 1920s and buildings that were built, at the turn of the 1900, 1800 century, that's history here. You go to places in Europe or, in South America or wherever, everything has its own feel, okay? In Italy, again, there are signs on the side of buildings. This family has lived here since 1630, okay? Talk a little bit about what people kind of experience and what surprises people on trips to various parts of the world.
I think it's actually very educational and very enlightening, because in Buffalo, we do kind of live in a little bubble, so to speak, because we're not surrounded by all that culture and pomp and circumstances happen for centuries. So whether you're in South America, you know, where the conquistadors, you know, were populating South America and bringing their culture and their religion over, and obviously their architecture, you see a lot of that you're obviously not going to see in Buffalo, New York. Same thing in Italy, and obviously, you know, one of my bucket list places is Croatia. I really love to get over there and see that one of these days.
No, that's I wouldn't have thought about that. That hadn't occurred to me. When somebody's thinking about booking a tour as a different kind of vacation, rather than driving down to Allegheny State Park or going to Florida for a week,
we do that too.
Experience. But how do they get started when they give you a call and you can explain everything to them? And basically, you know, what are the typical questions that you have?
Our typical questions, obviously, who, what, where, and how much. Most of the time, our group trips will be posted on our website, jdexcellentadventures.com. Or they can fill out a traveler interest form if they have a specific place they'd like to go. They can also go on our website, and there's all kinds of ideas. If, for instance, you want to go to Tuscany, there are several tours that are on our website where it says Tuscany. Now, those aren't group hosted trips. Those are trips that you and your wife could say, hey, that's what we want to do for, you know, our 50th anniversary or something, or 40th year anniversary. And if it appeals to you, you just call us up and say, hey, we saw this on your website. You know, what's the deal? And, you know, maybe your wife has, or somebody has a mobility issue. Those are questions that we're there for. Get you on the airplane, get you off the airplane, get you through airports that aren't as congested and easier to maneuver. So we take care of all the details.
That's kind of interesting, because for many, many years, as I was growing up and you know, at the beginning of my career, travel agents were the way to go. You had a travel agent and you would call them and they would get you the best rates and the most convenient times.
Yes.
And they would basically guide you through the experience, because you're not a professional traveler. That's their profession. Then we got away from travel agents to a great extent because of the internet and bargain hunters and people, you know, just dealing with airlines, you know, separately and so on. But now it's kind of, there's a niche there for somebody who's a travel agent, which you are. You can customize a trip for a couple, or a group of 4 or 5 people.
Or 80, like we just had in Costa Rica.
Yeah, it's just, you know, the advantages of going through a travel agent are many. One is cost, right?
Generally, the cost is going to be about the same, but what you're going to get with us is you're going to get the best flights. A lot of these bargain houses that you see on the internet, that is overstock inventory. That's the back of the airplane. That's ridiculous layover times at the worst possible flying times, because it's overstock, and that's what they sell. So, and the same thing with their hotel rooms and or pretty much anything else. They're overstock warehouses is what they are. So when you're looking online and trying to piece it together yourself, generally you're not getting a lot of value for your money. Whereas we see every flight, we see what's convenient. A lot of times travel agents automatically get an upgraded room because we're agents. Mm-hmm. And then we pass that right through to you. It doesn't cost you anymore. It costs you the same price as it might cost you on the internet. The difference is you're staying in a room that's 1 or 2 categories above what you would have gotten on the internet.
Well, you know, they go through a travel agent such as yourself, and they're dealing with kind of inside baseball, because you have the contacts
right
at the various hotel chains and the airlines and so on. Yep. So
we belong to the same consortium that the Big E or what have you belong to. So we're in the same consortium as they are. We buy at the same price they do. And we don't when something goes wrong, we're there for you. Mm-hmm. You're not trying to get a hold of some 800 number along with 350,000 people that are struggling to get out of that are in the Northeast in a snowstorm.
Well, so if somebody wants to think about a vacation that's different, that isn't going to break the bank and is going to be exactly what they're looking for, they can come to you and they can say, look, I'm not interested in museums, I'm not interested in this, I'm not interested in that. Tell me how to experience this in this kind of part of the world. You can guide them.
Absolutely. Whether it's flora or fauna or history, again, getting back to some of the things I'd like to do is I really wanted to go to the War Museum in London. I've been there twice, I still haven't made it. I'm determined when I go in October, I'm going to see Churchill's War Room. But there's a lot of, and again, it depends on what you're interested in. We're capable of pretty much tailoring it to anybody.
Well, one of my favorite subjects is history.
That's mine.
And I just love various places in the world. I went to Pompeii. That was fascinating. And one of the things on my bucket list is going to Egypt and seeing the pyramids and the temples and the Valley of the Kings and so on. You're actually going to do a trip to Egypt.
I have two couples that are doing Secrets of the Nile, it's called. And that's coming up for them in January of 27. It's sold out, so if you want to do those tours, you have to pretty much get on it about a year at a time. They're flying into Cairo, and then they're interflying to Luxor to get on a riverboat, basically, that will go down the Nile, and they'll be stopping at all the great pyramids of Giza and so on and so forth. So I think it's an 11 or 12-day excursion.
And one of the things that you pride yourself on, in conversations that we've had, is this is an experience when people travel with you, or when you arrange for the people to travel. It's a relaxing experience.
Yes.
They don't have to worry about anything.
We take care of everything.
They don't have to. You structure things so that this is vacation. This is carefree.
Whether it's a honeymoon for a young couple that's never been out of the country before, or people that are getting up in years and are concerned with how they're going to get to it. They'd like to go on vacation. They'd like to be a little adventurous, but they're concerned on, how overwhelming is it going to be? How do they get from the hotel or from the airport to the hotel and vice versa? We take care of everything. We have either private drivers where we're going, or where we're sending people, or we have vetted transportation companies that will pick them up personally. Private transportation. Take them to the hotel, and basically all they have to do is be at the airport on time. And whether they're a young couple that's never been out of the country before, or somebody that's getting up in years, we take care of everything for them, and no hidden charges. A lot of times there's hidden airport charges and port charges and transfer charges and all that nonsense, and we don't believe in that. We never have done that. We're never going to do that. When you get a price, it is everything.
So if somebody wants to, just take an impulse buy and say, I think it'd be nice to go here or to do that or whatever. They just get on the phone, they give you a call?
They can either go, the best way generally is to go onto our website at jdexcellentadventures.com and start looking, because there are trip ideas and actual trips all over the world that you can look at and see what piques your interest. Yeah, right. I mean, that's the beauty of travel. Every place on this planet is a little bit different. So depending on what your interests are, I guarantee you'll see something that'll interest you when you go look at those things. Or you can give us a call and you say, hey, do you have any upcoming trips? Or do you have, what's hot, what's cheap, what's affordable, what's one of the things, again, we pride ourselves on, and what's safe. There are places I will not send any of our customers, at times because of what's going on in the world.
Well, like I said earlier, I think you hit the sweet spot when it comes to this kind of a diversion from everyday life in Buffalo. You have the the economics of it, because we're all looking for that bargain. we're all Buffalonians, and you have the convenience factor where they don't have to worry about anything, and you know and you have the places they want to go.
We're hometown, both my wife and I, from Buffalo. We're looking for those same bargains. We pride ourselves on giving people a good value for their dollar. And that's what Buffalonians, and it's actually a sense of community, because the people that go on our trips, some of these people have become lifelong friends, travel pals forever.
That's interesting. Well, you know, that's all the time we have for this big picture. But if we, you know, are going through right now as we tape the show, we're going through a winter that's not exactly the fun time of the year in Buffalo, unless you're a skier, I guess. And, you know, getting away is like breathing a little bit of fresh air. It kind of invigorates you. It gives you a reboot and re-energize to get through everyday life. And I highly recommend, if you are considering something different or something exciting, you know, something that would be stimulating on the one hand, educational on the other hand, and relaxing, this is something you might want to consider. We'll put the information up on the screen for Joe and Donna's excellent adventures. And I'd like to thank you for watching WBBZ. I'd like to thank Joe for being my guest. And thanks for watching The Big Picture. We will see you the next time on The Big Picture.